Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now today's first story comes from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit from Professional Rub 4448, and it says, Am I the arsehole for telling my parents I'm willing to sell them my forgiveness? My parents expected me to be independent the minute I turned 18. They gave me the money they had saved up for my education, and they started charging me rent. I was lucky enough to have a partial scholarship, and I found a job in the city my university was in, so I moved there before the school year began. With my parents' money, my scholarship, and my wages, I was able to scrape by. I rarely, if ever, spoke with my parents. I was kind of busy. I guess they decided that they didn't want that kind of relationship with my younger siblings because they were not presented with the same option. They both lived at home all through university and even afterwards. I'm 34 now, with a decent job and a great girlfriend whom I will be marrying this summer. I sent my parents and siblings an invitation. They called me to ask why they were not invited in the wedding. I responded that they hadn't really been part of my life in 16 years. And that I was being nice by inviting them. They said that they acknowledged that they made mistakes when I was young, but that it was in the past and that I should get over it. Against my fiance's advice, I sent them an itemized bill for everything I paid for myself that they freely gave my brother and sister. I said if they wanted to be a part of my life, they had to ante up. They said that I cannot afford that because they're in debt still from helping my siblings out. I laughed at that and said that I hoped that I'd see them at the wedding and hung up. My family are all getting a hold of me to tell me how much I'm hurting my parents. The thing is that I don't want their money, and I don't want anything from them at all other than their attendance at my wedding. If they can't do that, then I'm fine with our yearly phone call. Am I the arsehole? Poetry Dream says not the arsehole. Maybe the itemized bill was a bit much, but I imagine it was cathartic for you. Your parents haven't been around in a decade and a half. They have a lot of nerve to ask to be involved. Not being involved in your wedding is just reaping what they sowed. Congratulations on your upcoming wedding. Inner Outer Self says, yeah, it is an arsehole move in a vacuum, but this is more about catharsis and appropriate response. I filed this away as one of those really good ideas for dealing with crazy people. Mathematics Duck says, I'm tired of this sub's black and white view on being an arsehole. Sometimes it's perfectly reasonable to be an arsehole. Sending an itemized bill is one of those times. Harry Boy says they said that they cannot afford that because they are in debt still from helping my siblings out. I'm sorry, what? Then why did they do that in the first place? Not the arsehole OP. Perhaps siblings can pay back now. GDDDG says if their perceived choice was going into debt to support their adult kids or lose almost all contact with them like OP, it's not surprising they picked debt. Of course, the reality is the choice was a bit less extreme. Let them live at home rent-free and pay what they could without going into debt. Look, they created this inequality in your family when forcing you to be independent at 18, whilst letting the siblings live at home through university and onwards, whilst it sounded like you had to struggle with what you said by scraping by, whilst again knowing your siblings are receiving that ongoing support. And it's quite shocking that they've turned around after 16 years of very little, it sounds like a yearly phone call, that they're not actually a part of the wedding. I mean, come on now. And then giving you those classic non-apologies. But it was 2 years after that post that OP came in with an update and said, I posted a couple of years ago about my parents being upset that I didn't make them a bigger part of my wedding. This was after a decade and a half of us barely speaking and all of us being okay with the state of our relationship. They did end up coming to the wedding and then going away afterwards, which was great and exactly what I wanted from them. My younger sister just got married and I was invited. I don't mind my sister, so my wife and I made a trip of it with my wife's mum. That way, we had childcare for our son, and we could have a nice visit to my hometown, which I rarely visit. It was a child-free wedding, which was fine by us. However, my wife did still need to take a couple of breaks to pump. We had a cooler for the milk so it wouldn't go to waste, and this caused another shit show. My parents were upset that I didn't bring my son to the wedding. A child-free wedding they were helping to pay for. I just laughed and said we could get together before we went home. But this wasn't good enough. They said we had to bring him to the gift opening the next day. Pass. We had plans. I told him this, and they were pissed that we were just coming to the wedding and then not visiting. We do not have that kind of relationship. They have only seen my son once since he was born. They have gone on 3 overseas vacations in that time. They both earn good money and have time to travel. They just choose to spend their time and money in other ways than seeing him. I'm not sure how to convey to them that we are related, but not really all that close anymore. I love them and such, but in an obligatory way. They are my parents. Anyways, that's about it. They seem to have forgotten my facetious offer to sell them my forgiveness. Oh yeah, my brother still lives at home, rent-free. He has a full-time job as a teacher. The commenters on this one said, not the arsehole. Weren't they in debt? If they wanted to see your child, they would. You don't owe them anything. Opie said they were. Have not forbidden them from seeing the boy. Boggers says, so they paid for your sister's wedding. I bet they didn't pay a cent for yours. Looks like they haven't changed in 20 years. You can't choose your family, I suppose. PS's BS says, don't be shocked to find that you, and not your siblings or their own savings, are the retirement plan. Opie says that's not going to happen. And Deathboy says, after an extremely tempestuous relationship with my folks for the last 20 years, the only lever I care to pull anymore is the amount of time between chances to see me and their only grandson. It's like electrocuting the dinosaurs at Jurassic Park. They learn a little, for a while, then they go back to old habits. Then they get the juice again. Couple of years between visits last time as Dad tried to assault me for standing up to him, insulting my wife because he was drunk. After a while, the urge to reconnect really dims down and it just becomes play nice or kick rocks. You sound like you got your head screwed on, man. Hope it doesn't harm your peace any. Personally, I never understand people who chuck out their kids at 18. I know there's a balance that you want them to have independence and, and start working towards that for themselves to become adults and work for themselves, all that kind of good stuff. I totally get that. But when you got a kid, an 18-year-old or whoever, who's trying their absolute best, he's got a scholarship and he's in university and he's just doing his absolute best. Surely you support him in any way you can. And if that means staying at home rent-free, supporting him, surely that's the way forward. But bloody hell, man. I like Opie's line in that update saying, we do not have that kind of relationship. Something that we see time and time again within these stories. But what do you guys make of this one? What would you do if you was OP? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Now our next story comes from Putrid C8359 and says, am I the arsehole for not letting my husband use airline credit for a co-worker? My husband and I got married 2 years ago during the middle of COVID lockdown. We were to go to France and Germany for our honeymoon. We saved for the tickets and to be honest, I paid for most of them. This is both a second marriage, both 43, and our finances have stayed separate for the most part due to my insistence. We've tried to go 3 times to our honeymoon and lockdowns or illnesses have left us stateside. My husband is very well traveled and I haven't been to many places. I've tried to talk to him about using the credit to go somewhere in the States, but he insists we wait. He is stingy on money and I've paid the majority of every travel we have done, which is mostly with my children. He has made me feel really bad about wanting to change the plans because he says it's given up on our honeymoon. I haven't been anywhere and even going to a coast would be amazing. Today when I got home from work, he said he had a co-worker, 25, who is stuck in Florida on vacation due to a flood that happened there recently. He says her car was totaled and has no way to get back to work her job. He offered to fly her back with our credit. I was dumbfounded. I asked if we will be paid back and he shrugged and said he doesn't feel like she needs to because she's going to RN school, which I'm assuming is registered nurse. I'm an RN and I work hard for every dime I make working in the ICU. He didn't ask me to use the credit. He assumed I'd be fine with it. It only came up in conversation about how crazy his day was. Am I the arsehole for saying no to use the credit on a co-worker? Am I the arsehole for feeling like he cared more for this woman than me? My little pinky says not the arsehole. Your husband is though. That's airline credits for you and your family, not for some random person your husband happened to work with. Why is this co-worker being stranded in Florida any of his business? If he's so worried about the co-worker, he can pay for the flight with his money. Clean Cucumber says because husband wants to play hero, so he might have a chance to get into her knickers. Adept next says, "How dare you jump to the very same conclusion we all did?" / sarcasm. Embarrassed Hat says, "Not the arsehole, but I'd be very leery about him not wanting to go anywhere with you and suddenly want to give some random 25-year-old chick your honeymoon credit." So it was 3 years after that post that OP did come in with her update and says, "Thought this would be an appropriate place for this. I've posted it a couple of times but always taken down due to the topic of domestic violence." Little trigger warning there, guys. I think it's a reminder that we don't get the whole story, as I definitely didn't. Updates: just logged in to an old computer and found this account that I no longer use. I'd completely forgotten about it and honestly have only a vague recollection of posting it due to circumstances I will get into. The marriage ended right after this. Looks like this is almost 3 years old and I've been away from this man as of 3 years in July 2025. This was one of the last arguments we had. He told me I was very uncaring about the stranger in Florida, and if I was a nice person, money would be no object to get her. He then strangled me to the ground and I passed out. By this point in the marriage, I handed him my phone when I got home from work, and he would give it to me when I left for work. I tried to leave several times, each time I came back. When I wrote this post, I was downloading the audiobook, Why Does He Do That? By Bancroft, and then deleting it each evening before I handed my phone to him. This book saved my life. It gave me the courage to try and get away and understand that he wasn't going to change. He had choked me several times, and he was physically abusive by this point in our marriage. I had glass in my foot, and had half my hearing from a busted eardrum in my right ear. So about a week after this post, I went to get the mail, something I was not allowed to do, but something told me I needed to. In the mailbox was $35,000 check from my inheritance of my aunt. I stuffed it in my panties and stayed there until the next day. I was slowly gathering my dog, purse, and documents for an opportunity to leave. He had to leave for 2 hours for work, and I called my daughter and she came to pick me up. I didn't even have shoes on, I was so anxious. That was July 1st, 2022. I'll save you all the work it took to get to where I am today. But I will say that my life is good, my life is joyous, my life is safe and peaceful. I'm officially divorced and it took 2 years of him kicking and screaming to do that. He is yet to pay me a dime for the house that I bought, and I don't expect to see it, as he is in contempt. Thank you so much for the advice that you gave me that day. I'm not sure if he was having an affair with that woman or not. Most likely he was getting to the point where he was. All evidence points to that. I don't care though. I was so far gone that I don't even remember the post. It was like complaining about the smell of smoke when your whole house is on fire. Thank you again for being so gentle with me. To the women who told me to use the credit and go to the coast a year ago. I did. I took one of my daughters and we went to Oregon and Washington. We hiked, we sunbathed on the beach, we rock hounded, we did all the things. I didn't have any ambition to go to Paris or Germany. It was never my dream. Again, thank you so much for all the support you gave me 3 years ago. Commenter on the back of that one says, I suggest you talk to a lawyer and see if you can sue him for the house and force a sale, with you getting the cash, and or garnish his income or size his car to pay you back for it. A lawyer that will take a percentage of what you receive, no cash up front to you. Book only through a lawyer so he never knows where you live. Opie says, also, when I went to get my things awarded to me, he met me and 5 others to help me move and stay safe. He tried to lock me in the storage unit when he got mad. That was a year ago. Since then, I don't deal with him at all, but I have my lawyer deal with it. Substantial says he tried to lock you in a storage unit in front of 5 witnesses you brought. The man is unhinged. So proud of you for getting out. Opie says my friends, 2 of them were his friends too and are no longer, jumped on him to stop him from locking the door with me in it. He then got his truck and sped off swerving trying to hit me. Since he did this in front of people, he was charged with attempted assault and battery with a vehicle. He's abused 3 women in his life. He was 46 when it finally caught up with him. Substantial Lad replies saying, totally unhinged, but I'm glad it caught up with him and you are safe. Opie says, I have been doing this. The wheels of justice are slow. The amount has been awarded to me. Now he's in contempt. Holy moly, that was a massive twist in that update. I mean, the behavior in the first one was absolutely madness in itself, but it was to do with airline credits and this kind of thing, potential of cheating. and it comes to this domestic violence and absolutely, like the comment said, unhinged behavior. I'm incredibly glad that OP was able to get themselves out of that situation, and sounds like they're doing much better off. I always find it really scary though. I know OP's still got to deal with this person, hopefully only with a lawyer going forward, but this person's still out there. And OP said that he's abused 3 women up to this point so far. Just someone like him, that behavior isn't going to change, and I find that absolutely terrifying. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's have another story. Now our next story comes from Full Sheepherder 3892 and says, am I the arsehole for refusing to let my 2 close friends sleep over at my place after they lied to me about their plans? So I, teenage girl, have 2 really good friends. One is a close friend, the other is my best friend since literally before we could talk. We've been inseparable since we were only 1 year old. Recently though, she's been spending a lot more time with this other close friend. I've been feeling kinda left out and honestly a bit jealous, but I've been trying not to let that get to me too much. Today both of them asked if they could crash at my place tonight. They made it sound like they just wanted to hang out outside and needed a place to sleep because they couldn't stay at each other's houses. I joked, but also kinda meant it, that it felt like they were just using me for a bed, since it seemed like the plan was just the 2 of them hanging out without me. Now suddenly I'm useful because I have a room. Later, one of them called me and admitted that they were actually going to a house party tonight and didn't want to go home afterwards in that state, so they needed a place to sleep. Again, mine. They hadn't told me about the party at all, hadn't invited me, and outright lied about what they were doing earlier. That stung. What hurt more is that I only found out today that my best friend started smoking recently, something she always said she'd never do, especially since we all agreed we were against it. She didn't tell me, but she told this other girl. It feels like she's changed, and I'm being left out of the loop. So when they asked to stay over, I said no. I don't want to feel used, and it hurt that they weren't honest with me. But now I'm wondering if I'm being too sensitive or petty about this. Like maybe I should have just let them stay. Maybe I'm overreacting. Am I the arsehole for saying no and feeling hurt when they lied to me and left me out? Kind of feels like one of those friendships where you realize, the behavior that they're showing absolutely isn't right, but sometimes with these friendships that they just slowly drift away. I totally get why you're feeling used about this, and I certainly wouldn't want to be treated that way, but can you see your friend changing anytime soon? As sad as it is, of course, but I'm not a werewolf says not the arsehole. You did what was right for you, and it's still right for you, even if it upsets them. Miley says not the arsehole. You did the right thing. They were trying to use you. Not only did they not invite you to the plans they had, but they tried to keep it a secret. Honestly, you should tell your friend how you feel about everything going on. Fairy Fart Daydream says, what a username, not the arsehole, and start making new friends. Another commenter says, yeah, need to agree with this OP. You're growing up. Part of growing up is also realizing you outgrow some people as you navigate your way through life. These 2 have clearly decided you're only their friend when you can offer them anything of use. Take it from a 29-year-old who's had plenty of friends. Had my rebellious phase also, just went different directions, etc. Sometimes you just have to appreciate friendships for what they were and realize they've run their course. Hope you make some great friends as you're growing up who treat you how you deserve to be treated. Then OP comes in with an update and says thanks to everyone who responded. I really appreciated the outside perspective because I felt like I was starting to gaslight myself. So after I told them they couldn't sleep at my place, I honestly thought that'd be the end of it. I figured they'd find somewhere else to stay and that would be that. But nope. Around 1 AM they started calling me non-stop, like 10 or 15 times. I text back and said I couldn't talk because I was watching TV with my mum, and she was still half awake. Just to be clear, there was no way they could have snuck in without her noticing, and I didn't want to deal with that. Then one of them started sending voice messages and texting me again saying stuff like, please, can we come now? And then basically guilt tripping me, saying that they have to sleep at a random bus stop in the cold if I didn't let them in. So I replied something like, you lied to me about just walking around at night, and I found out you're going to a party without even telling me or asking if I wanted to come. Now you're expecting to crash at my place. That feels like I'm just your backup plan. I'm not a hotel. I don't want trouble with my mum because you're showing up in the middle of the night. I already told you no. If you didn't sort out another place to sleep, that's not my fault. Please just go home. Her reply, yeah, but bro, you weren't invited, lol. Bro, chill. Then never mind, I guess. Which honestly just confirmed how little she cared about how I felt. No apology, no acknowledgement, just brushing it off. That's the update. Commenter says to OP, welp, now you know they aren't your friends. Don't bother with them again. Another commenter says, the trash has taken itself out. Well done, OP. You'll make better friends, I promise. Review Smooth says, drop them. You outgrow people. They showed they aren't your real friends and are only there when it's convenient for them. You're not the arsehole. Muppet says, yep, I had friends from high school that I outgrew, with whom, in retrospect, I should have cut contact much sooner. They were once really good friends, so I put up with their toxicity for a long time in the hopes that those good friends would re-emerge again. Eventually I realized that wasn't going to happen. I'd just been wasting my time when I should have been focusing on finding new friends. So don't waste your time, OP. Find new friends. They're out there somewhere. Deary me, those teenage years are rough, aren't they? But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.